All right, let's dive in. Today we're exploring the origins of Jagannath, and we're going deep into ancient Sanskrit lore for this one. Our main source is an excerpt from Brahma Purana 29-1.mp3. Seems to be some kind of religious or mythological text, but get this tale's got everything. Dreams, divine encounters, oh, and the creation of a sacred icon, of course.
Yeah, it's a story that really gets at that human desire, the desire to connect with something bigger than ourselves, something divine.
Exactly. It all starts with his king, Indradumna, and he is completely obsessed with getting a vision of Lord Vishnu. We're not talking about some casual wish here. This guy's going all out, prayers, sacrifices, the whole 9 yards.
The text really emphasizes just how strong Indradumna's longing is. He's not after favors or blessings, you see. He wants a direct personal experience of the divine, like a deep spiritual hunger.
And then, bam, Vishnu appears in his dream. But this isn't some vague, fuzzy dream figure. The text gives us this crazy, vivid picture. Vishnu, riding Garuda, his eagle, 8 arms with all these divine weapons, glowing like the sun during the apocalypse, skin the color of a blue sapphire. Talk about an entrance.
This is where the storytellers back then were so good. They used these super vibrant, almost overwhelming images to make the listener feel awe and wonder. Every little thing, like the conch, discuss, and mace Vishnu's holding, they all have symbolic meaning, pointing to his divine power and attributes. It's meant to make you feel like you're seeing something totally otherworldly.
Right, it's not just a dream. It's an experience that rocks the king to his core. And then Dream Vishnu gives him this very specific task. Find a certain tree on the seashore and chop it down. No explanation, just find the tree.
It's like a divine riddle almost, right? And the way they describe the tree makes you think it's not just any tree. It's standing partly in the water, partly on land, totally unmoved by the waves.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. The world is a dangerous sea, right? Full of uncertainty, constant change. And this tree represents what? Safe harbor? Stability?
Exactly. The story might be using this image to subtly say that even with all the chaos of life, there's this constant divine presence that we can seek refuge in. And through searching for that presence, which is the tree in this story, that's how we find the strength and guidance to deal with life's challenges.
Wow, never thought about it that way. That's powerful, especially when you think about how many people throughout history have turned to faith when things are tough.
Absolutely. It speaks to that basic human need, to have something to hold on to, something that makes you feel grounded when everything else feels uncertain.
Okay, so the king sets out to find this mysterious tree. And wouldn't you know it, he runs into 2 Brahmins on the seashore. Now, these Brahmins are important, so pay attention.
This is where things get interesting, because the text kind of hints that these Brahmins aren't what they seem. Like they might actually be Vishnu and Vishwakarma, the divine architect, in disguise.
Wait, a divine disguise? Why would they do that?
Well, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are they testing the king? Maybe they want to see what he's really like without revealing who they are. It adds a whole other layer to the story.
I love it, like a divine game of what's really going on here.
Yeah.
So the king, totally clueless about who these Brahmins really are, tells them about his dream and his quest. He wants to create an image of Vishnu to honor him.
His heart's in the right place. He wants to show his devotion through this secret image.
And the disguised Vishnu and Vishwakarma, they're just listening, playing along. They offer to help the king create the deity. They even tell him that the world is a perilous sea, full of suffering, and that seeking Vishnu is a noble pursuit. It's like they're subtly reinforcing the message from his dream.
It does feel like a test, doesn't it? They're echoing that idea of the world as a tough place and emphasizing how important it is to look for something beyond the material world, something that offers comfort and guidance.
It makes me think about the challenges we all face and how we look for ways to cope, to find meaning. Do you think the story is hinting at something universal about being human? That we're all navigating a perilous sea in our own way?
That's a good question. Maybe the story is asking us to think about what our own trees are, those sources of strength and stability we turn to when we need them.
I like that. And the king, he passes the test. He's clearly devoted to Vishnu and wants to honor him. So the time comes to create Jagannath. But here's the twist. Instead of making just one deity, the disguised Vishnu tells the king to make 3. Jagannath, who represents Krishna, Balabhadra, representing Balarama, and Subhadra, Krishna's sister.
And each deity has specific details, symbolic meanings. Jagannatha, for example, is described as having these big, captivating eyes.
It's interesting, right? What do those big eyes mean? Is it to show that he sees everything?
Exactly. Those big eyes symbolize his all-seeing nature. Like he's a watchful protector, always aware of what his devotees need, offering comfort and guidance.
Ah, that makes sense. It adds a whole other layer to his image. It's not just about looks, it's about conveying a deeper spiritual truth.
Precisely. It's about giving the image a sense of power and presence that goes beyond just the physical form.
And get this, the creation happens super fast, almost instantly. Another clue that divine forces are at work.
It's a clear sign that this isn't a normal creation. It's a miracle, orchestrated by the gods themselves, reinforcing the idea that these deities aren't just human creations, but manifestations of divine power.
Okay, remember those Brahmins, the ones who seem totally normal. This is where things get really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The king, watching this crazy fast creation, suddenly realizes these aren't your average craftsmen. He recognizes them as gods in disguise and pours out his heart, praising Vishnu.
It's a moment of realization for the king, like a veil is lifted and he sees the truth, and his reaction is really telling.
You're right, because instead of asking for wealth, power, or anything worldly, he asks for something much bigger. Moksha. Liberation from the cycle of birth and death.
That's a powerful choice. It shows his spiritual maturity. He understands that worldly pleasures are fleeting, insignificant compared to the eternal bliss of liberation.
It really makes you think about what matters most in life, what we truly value, what our aspirations are beyond the material world.
And this is a concept at the heart of many spiritual traditions, the idea that true fulfillment doesn't come from possessions, but from inner peace and liberation from suffering.
And Vishnu, obviously pleased with the king's selfless devotion, grants him a long and prosperous reign. But more importantly, he promises him moksha after 10,900 years.
It's a powerful message about the ultimate reward of true devotion and the potential for spiritual liberation by aligning ourselves with the divine.
So the story brings us to the creation of the Jagannath temple, a place of pilgrimage and devotion for centuries. It's also home to the Indradumna Sarovar, a sacred lake created from the king's sacrifices. But there's more to unpack about the meaning of this temple and its rituals.
Absolutely. There's a whole other layer to this story about the legacy of Jagan and how his worship has changed over time. It's a fascinating look at how these ancient tales continue to shape religious beliefs and practices today.
And that's exactly where we're going next. We'll dive deeper into the lasting legacy of Jagannath and the importance of his temple. Okay, so before we went anywhere, we were talking about King Indradumna's wild ride, the crazy dream, that mysterious tree, the whole god in disguise thing, and in the end, getting moksha as his reward. But the story keeps going.
That's what's so cool about these old stories. They're not just about one person. They're about how traditions start, how sacred places are made, and the impact of faith over time.
Totally. And here, the story shifts from the king's personal quest to the founding of the Jagannath temple, which becomes this major pilgrimage site.
The text talks about the Indradumna Sarovar. That's a sacred lake named after the king. It's supposed to have formed from the sacrifices he made, like a physical representation of his devotion.
And the Brahma Purana really goes all out about this lake. It claims that just one dip in its water can get you into Indraloka. That's the heaven of Indra, the king of the gods, like a tangible reward for spiritual actions.
It's interesting, right? Connecting acts of devotion with real, almost otherworldly benefits speaks to that human desire to see your actions reflected in the physical world.
But there's more to the story than just the lake. It gets into specific rituals and practices connected with the Jagannath temple, especially during the month of Jyeshta.
It's like the Brahma Purana is shifting gears. From an origin story to a guidebook for religious practice, it tells you how to properly worship Jagannath, Balapadra, and Subhadra, highlighting how important rituals are in connecting with the divine.
One ritual that really sticks out is this big procession, where they move the deities. They're carried on huge chariots to a special pavilion, and it's described as this massive festival. People are using gold-handled whisks, fans decorated with jewels. Talk about a spectacle.
It's like sensory overload, right? You can almost hear the music, smell the incense, feel the energy of the crowd. The text uses all these details to make it come alive, emphasizing that communal aspect of worship, the joy of celebrating your faith together.
And it's not just about the outward show. The text is super clear that this procession is deeply spiritual. It gives precise instructions for how Brahmins and other devotees should offer prayers and hymns during the ceremony, emphasizing how important intention and inner devotion are.
Right. It's a reminder that even in these huge celebrations, that personal connection with the divine is still at the heart of it. The procession becomes a way to participate in something bigger than yourself, to reaffirm your faith along with everyone else.
The text even says that anyone who sees this procession with a pure heart will be transported to Vishnu's realm, again, connecting earthly actions with otherworldly rewards.
This whole idea of pilgrimage actually going to a holy place, it's really powerful. It represents a conscious choice to step out of your normal routine and enter a space where you're more spiritually aware. It's about seeking transformation through the experience itself.
And the Brahma Purana really drives home the importance of going to the Jagannath temple, especially during Jeshta. As a way to reach Vishnu's realm, it claims that making this journey with sincere devotion can cleanse you of all your sins and lead to spiritual liberation.
It's not just about being in the temple, it's about how you change on the inside during the trip. It's about leaving behind the everyday world and going to a place where you're more open to the divine.
So we started with a king's dream, and now we have this temple, a sacred lake, elaborate rituals, and the promise of spiritual liberation through pilgrimage. It's crazy how it all comes together.
It's like a blueprint for a religious life, right? It shows how one story can create this whole system of beliefs and practices that still resonate today.
Makes you think about how much of our own lives are shaped by stories, narratives passed down through generations, shaping how we see the world and our place in it.
It's fascinating to think about, right? How these ancient tales still affect our beliefs, our values, even our sense of who we are and what's possible.
And speaking of powerful stories, there's one more thing in the Brahma Purana we should talk about. It sheds light on how powerful Jagannath is and the impact he has on people who seek him out.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's a part that gets to the heart of the whole story, that longing to connect with the divine, and the possibility of finding it in unexpected ways.
Exactly. We're back and ready to uncover that last piece of the Jagannath puzzle. Remember how we talked about that sacred lake, the Indradumna Sarovar, and all those elaborate rituals? Well, get this. The Brahma Purana mentions a specific spot near the lake, a banyan tree tucked away in a grove of fragrant screw pine trees.
Sounds peaceful, like a hidden oasis.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The text says that anyone who just chants Jagannath's name while facing this tree, even from far away, will be cleansed of all their sins and reach Vishnu's abode.
Almost sounds too good to be true, huh? Like a spiritual shortcut or a guaranteed ticket to paradise.
I know, right? It's like the Brahma Purana is saying, hey, we get it, life's tough, the world's a mess, and reaching liberation seems impossible. But here's this simple act of devotion that can put you on the right track.
And that simplicity is key. It's about making it accessible, giving everyone a way to connect with the divine and find peace, no matter who they are or what they've done.
It makes me think about how a lot of spiritual traditions say that the divine is always there, always available to us. But we have to make the effort to tune in, to reach out. And sometimes the simplest things, like chanting a name with real focus, can be that bridge.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that inner awareness, being intentional with our actions, even if they seem small or unimportant.
This whole journey through the Brahma Purana has been incredible. We've seen vivid imagery, learned about fascinating rituals, and explored profound philosophies. In the end, this story reminds us that wanting to connect with the divine is something humans have always felt.
It also shows how powerful storytelling is. In passing these ideas down through generations, the story of Jagannath is more than just history. It's a living tradition that still shapes the lives of so many people.
Makes you wonder what other amazing stories are hidden in these ancient texts, just waiting to be discovered and shared.
And it makes you appreciate the wisdom and insight they offer, guidance and inspiration for our own lives.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with something to think about. The story says that chanting Jagannath's name near a specific tree can lead to liberation. So what about us? Are there power spots or practices in our own lives that have the potential to change us?
It could be a place, a ritual, a mantra, or even just a simple act of kindness, something that connects us to something bigger than ourselves and opens us to new possibilities.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into all the mysteries and wonders the world has to offer.